The journey to Istanbul started for us straight after we beat Chelsea in the semi-final. I think that's where it begins, because as soon as we were padding out onto the streets, after George had finally told us to get out of Anfield, by the way, because everyone was hugging and celebrating that much, that in fact Anfield was empty, but the cop had stayed and just to sort of celebrate and all have a big hug.
Well, I got my first job at a newspaper at the start of 2005, and after we beat Juventus, I remember going to speak to my boss and saying I was going to need the Wednesday off for work, for the final, and he said to me, well, that's deadline day and there's already a reporter off, so you can't have it. So I basically started making plans to go anyway, just thinking I'll convince him at a later date. After we beat Chelsea, started looking into how to get there. And then I think on the Monday before the final, he basically heard that I was planning on going anyway. I'd got my ticket. So I got called into a meeting with the editor. I was still on my probationary period, and I just read the riot act, basically told I could lose my job. I'll never forget the editor saying to me, what's more important, your job or this match? And I just thought, well, she doesn't want to hear the answer to that question, so I just didn't say anything.
It was exciting. Before we even went, I remember thinking I was made up it was going to be in Istanbul because we'd never been there before. So one of my mates who I was going with was disappointed it wasn't Rome, Paris, the rest. But I said this will be ours, which is what we wanted. So we went on a bit of a magical mystery tour, as most people did to get there. Went via Amsterdam, I think, and then via Greece, 2 different flights. And then we got there about a day or two before most of the crowd. So we saw everyone arrive, we saw Taksim Square turn into the sea of red that it turned into. And then we stayed afterwards as well, so we got to witness a bit of Istanbul afterwards, which is a completely different experience.
So we ended up, me and my sister, we booked on it was a one-night trip, so we flew out first thing from Speak Airport. I remember getting there, crack of dawn, about 6 o'clock in the morning. Obviously you have the pint in the airport, which you have to no matter what time it is, and it was just Liverpool fans there. No one else seemed to be going anywhere. I remember the John Lennon statue, even he had a Liverpool scarf on. Just brilliant atmosphere. Couldn't believe we were actually going to a Champions League final.
Flew into Istanbul, and as soon as the plane landed and they get my phone on, I'm getting loads of texts saying, like, you know, it's fantastic in Taksim Square, it's brilliant, it's going off, all the Reds are on the aisle, the songs are going, it's a sunny day, get yourself there. Like,
we'd heard up about everyone in Taksim Square and the big parties going on there, and the person, our tour guide, if you like, said, oh, we haven't really got time to get anywhere, so you just go and get yourself changed and we'll have something to eat round here, and then we'll go up to the game. And me and my sister thought, sod that. We'd seen all the pictures and all the videos, we wanted to get there, so we dumped our bags. 2 other lads had the same idea, and we jumped a taxi to Taksim Square. My first experience of Istanbul, traffic is unbelievable. The one thing that city didn't need was an extra 50,000 scousers all trying to get around as well. Absolutely rammed.
Because I think it's worth saying that to the people in Istanbul, this was absolutely wild. There was, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of Scousers turning up, big white faces, red faces later on in the day because of the sunshine, and singing and shouting, climbing on roofs, draping flags over everything, getting on the aisle at God knows what time in the morning.
I always vividly remember as well a random memory of a lad sitting up a tree, and he just sat there for like 3 days, it felt like, and he just sat at the top of this tree or lamppost, whatever it was, 20 feet up in the air, singing, partaking in all the sing-songs with his mates passing beers up to him all day. It's fantastic.
Word sort of got round quite quickly that the stadium was quite far from the actual city, and that you had to sort of leave quite early to get there. So, you know, people were jumping in taxis, there was buses put on, but we ended up jumping in a taxi ourselves, and it was quite funny when we got the taxi, because there was a load of us and we had to get 2 taxis. And Tony Barrett, who I'm sure most people will know, most Reds will know, he was in a different taxi to me. And as we turned the corner, Tony's taxi was just there, like, with, like, you know, smoke coming out the bonnet and everything, and he's just stood there clutching his head. And then John Aldridge went past in another cab, just pointed out the window going, ah, laughing his head off at Tony. So no help from Aldo there. And
we ended up getting a bus and had to get off about 2 miles away from the ground and walk across what seemed like moon wasteland. It all added to the whole charm of the whole event because it was just completely bizarre.
In the end, we just thought, right, there's nothing for it. All got off this coach and just walked across this weird, rocky desert landscape to the stadium, which suddenly appeared on the horizon. You
just ended up in this huge traffic jam near the ground. It was just absolutely chocker, like this snaking road that led and you could see the ground in the distance, and it was like this sort of moonscape, like Mars, like just nothing there. Like where the ground was, there was nothing else for miles. It was odd. It was like some kind of pilgrimage with something in the distance that you were heading towards.
Eventually, after a couple of hours, we were there. Well, there-ish, you could see it, and the traffic wasn't moving, so we all just abandoned it and walked across what felt like a desert to get to the ground. You know, we still had a couple of beers left. There was people trying to buy us off them and stuff like that, but you know, we had plenty of time, so we kind of got there, and then you know, the realisation there that you had a Champions League final.
Yeah, got into the ground just in time. Obviously, it went the way it went. Half time, I remember getting a text from a girl at my work saying, you almost lost your job and you're 3-0 down in the Champions League final. How does it feel? I remember thinking I'm never going to talk to her again.
But I remember everybody being down in the dumps at half time and thinking, well, that's it. And that's the end of the dream and we're just going to get absolutely annihilated now. It was as if everyone in our end stood up at once. And I know that's probably memories clouding it, but it still feels like that all at once we just stood up and sang You'll Never Walk Alone, and it was the most defiant You'll Never Walk Alone I've ever been part of. Yeah.
Everyone always talks about half time, don't they, and there's this romantic story of, you know, how everyone sang You'll Never Walk Alone and the players heard it and that motivated them to come out second half and do what they did. But loads of people, including me and my mates, we were absolutely distraught. We were gutted. I remember, you know, sitting underneath the stand, head in hands, and just being like, this could be the heaviest defeat in European Cup history.
For me, do you never walk alone at half time? I do remember it, and I think a lot said about it. For me, it was a song of defiance. It was a song of saying, you know, look, we know you've done really well to get here. We know you're not going to win this game, but you know, we still support you because we never expected a European final that year. You know, all the teams we've beat, all the nights at Anfield, the Chelsea, Juventus, great days. You know, we've come up against a brilliant AC Milan team. We're not going to win this, but we're still there for you. So anyone who says like, oh, it was about, you know, trying to inspire the team back in, I don't really feel like that to me.
I remember vividly the Dudek save from Shevchenko when we pulled it back to 3-3, and at that point we think we're just going to demolish them. And when we sort of ran out of steam and it was like a boxing match, they came back at us then, and we were on line with the shot that Shevchenko had where Dudek saved it, and I can still picture it now, the trajectory of the ball coming off Dudek's hand and going immediately up into the sky, and I turned to my mate and said, that's it, we've won at that point. That wasn't natural. That was, and we could see Dudek's face, and you could tell he was thinking that was weird. When
Shevchenko stood up, I thought, well, he'll score, but Gerrard's next, so we'll be all right here. Dudek saves it again. I just sunk to my knees. Fella next to me picked me up. Had a bit of a hug and all that, and then after that, it was just absolutely brilliant scenes. The players dancing around, everyone kind of singing.
I just ended up in this huge ball of humans rolling over seats. My eyes closed, just screaming, didn't care what was going on. I was just, what the European Cup.
And then I remember just going after the airport afterwards, just being in like a daze. It was really quiet. It was funny. You'd think you'd be elated, but you'd spent so much, you used up so much emotion and energy watching the match.
Got back about 7 o'clock and landed, and my dad come and pick us up from the airport, and he said, oh, the bus is still going round, and it was due in St George's Hall like an hour before, but there was so many people out on the street and I managed to get there. You know, it was getting blocked all the way, so we thought, sod this, ran home, quick change, straight into town, got to St George's Hall just as the players' bus came round. Absolutely amazing timing and an amazing end to a couple of days. You know, you got Djibril Cissé topless hanging off the back of the bus, looking like he's going to drop the European Cup, and just absolutely amazing. And then, you know, your energy levels are up again. You're out in town, went to Taksim Square, all the people hanging in trees singing the Liverpool songs, and yeah, just a brilliant experience.